Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Serena, and today I wanted to celebrate hitting the 1,000 subscriber mark with a question and answer. So a couple of days ago during the week, I used my community feed to ask you guys what questions you guys had for me. So I got a list of questions that you guys asked for me, and then I also compiled a couple of frequently asked questions from some sewing groups that I'm in. So I got it all on a list and I wrote it down, and we're gonna get into that. But before I get into that, I want to thank you guys so much for all of your ongoing support and subscriptions and likes and comments that I get in my video. It's really nice to see my little community come together slowly but surely, but I'm really happy with the progress that I've been having. I think it's only been about 10 months since I've been actively making content for this channel. There's still so much that I would like to delve into and explore, as well as enhance the quality of my videos and things of that nature. But I'm just so glad that you guys are down for the ride right now. So thank you. So I've always been into vintage for as long as I can remember. I remember the earliest that I've been into was like the 70s. And that's when I was in elementary school. So everything had to be like bell bottoms. And I really enjoyed Volkswagen Beetles. I wanted a classic Beetle to be my first car. I was so into the 70s, the tie-dye, the color, kind of like the costumey, fun aspect of the 70s. So I've always been into it. And as I got older, it kind of matured into the 50s. And then eventually, once I actually started to learn how to sew and make reproduction pieces, I'm currently in the stage where I adore the 40s. And a lot of that has to do with the pandemic right now, because the 40s clothes, because it was during wartime, required less fabric. So I've been able to utilize more of my stash sewing from the 40s as opposed to the 50s. So that's kind of like a short, kind of long description into how I got into vintage sewing. But also I love vintage things in general. So once I got my first sewing machine, which was a 1970s Kenmore sewing machine, it kind of progressed from there. I was like, okay, sewing modern clothes isn't enough for me. I kind of want to get in tune with the types of things that maybe the original owner would have been making. So that really got me into vintage sewing. Right now, I like the 40s and 50s the most. However, there are little bits and pieces from the 30s and the early 60s that I like. And even with maternity fashion, there is some 70s that I enjoy as well. Although I won't be making any 70s clothing, maternity clothing, just because I don't like how high the hem is above my knees. I try and keep my clothes below the knee as much as possible. It just makes me feel more comfortable since I've been wearing vintage for so long, and I'm used to that coverage that when I wear anything shorter, kind of feels kind of funny. So this has been an issue. Clothing in general has been an issue throughout my life. I never was into fashion or shopping for that matter, as far as clothing was concerned, because I've always been really thin and my body proportions are kind of wonky too. So I'm 5'2", but my legs are a lot longer than someone who would be my height, and my torso is short. So my proportions are off in that sense, and I'm also really thin. So finding clothes that fits me, the length of my legs, but also the smallness of my hips. By the time I was out of toddler size clothes, nothing would fit me. In order to get the length right, I would have to go up a size or two. But then because I'm so petite, not petite, but skinny, the clothes would never really fit at the waist. And same with tops, because I have a short torso, they were always a lot longer and baggy. And then for a really, really long time, my mom would put me in boys' clothes. So that was even worse. So I've never really been into fashion. So throughout my entire life, I've always had to do alterations to my clothes. And then it got to a point where I was like, why am I buying clothes to have to alter them? What if I just made my own clothes? I'm definitely a thrifty, or should I say a budget fabric shopper. So right now I really like poly cotton because it's quite affordable, doesn't wrinkle as much, and it's kind of thin and versatile. So I used to use it for a lot of linings, but this is a poly cotton blouse and I really like it because especially with being a mom and not really having too much time and how cramped my closet is, I was able to just pull this blouse out and it was like, you know, ready to go on. So it doesn't wrinkle as much. I also like cotton because it's also affordable. Also, I'm definitely a huge into prints. So cotton comes in like the most prints and they're really fun. I love novelty prints. And then over last fall and winter, I started to play around a lot more with wool, and I absolutely love wool. It's so nice to me. I just love wool. I can't afford to buy it as much as I would like to, so I do stick with like the cottons and the poly cottons. But I try, now that I'm sewing more and this is supposed to be closer to my forever wardrobe or my forever style slash fashion, I try and stick more to natural fibers than ever before. So those are what I like to work with now. And every once in a while, I like to like challenge myself with some satin. But for the most part, I do sew with cotton and flannels and wools and things like that. Kind of, I like the variety. So I don't have to deal with sewer's block or creative block because I do change up what I sew a lot. I only share with you guys for the most part what I make myself. But during the week, I also usually work on something for my toddler. And then before I got pregnant and I had the energy, I also used to make an accessory, which was usually a hat. So I would switch it up, like the type of sewing that I would make, in order to keep sewing my clothing. Because I noticed in the past when I would just focus on doing one type of thing, I would get really burnt out. I would get creative block. But I find that it's just switching it up in general, even just not sewing at all and doing a craft project like building furniture or reupholstering something, usually keeps me from having a block. So I don't necessarily have a favorite thing to make. It's usually what my favorite thing is in the moment. Clothes. So I guess people thought that because I was making them so quickly that I didn't actually wear my clothes a second time, and I do. I only post my clothes once because it's like my Instagram feed or online, that feed is just to show my latest project. But in between the time of making the project and my next project, it's my regular wardrobe. It's what I wear on a regular basis. So the goal is to replace my wardrobe. So I kind of don't have a choice because I've been not necessarily throwing away, but giving away my older clothes. And then keep in mind, the last time I've actually bought clothes, like shopped for clothing, was my senior year of high school, early year freshman. So all of my jeans are freshman college jeans. That's one like plus side to staying the same weight throughout your entire life, is you don't have to get rid of your clothes unless it just doesn't fit, which is not the case for me. So a lot of my clothes is extremely old and dated in terms of modern fashion anyway, but they're not vintage. So I do wear all of my clothes, mostly because I don't have a choice. I've been, gradually letting go some of my high school memories, as you can say. Do I wear my clothes? So a lot of people think because I do especially when I first started, I was focusing more in the 50s. So it was a lot of petticoats and a lot of accessories, so gloves and things of that nature, and hats. People thought that I wear my clothes to church, but I actually just wear my clothes wherever it is that I'm going. I find like I get a huge pick-me-up from getting dressed. Even if it's like a gloomy or sad day, usually once I get full on dressed, even though it takes energy to get there, once I get there, I always feel so much better. I feel happier. I feel brighter. So I just wear my clothes where I want to wear them. There's usually not a special occasion. If you see me dressed up, you can bet that whatever errand I'm going to run that day is exactly, that outfit is what I'm wearing for that occasion. So yeah, I'm always just overdressed in general in public. Honestly, I just spend lots of hours like scrolling. If I'm not sewing or doing anything momly or wifely and I'm just laying around, then I'm usually looking for patterns. Not necessarily looking for particular patterns, but just kind of like browsing around. I find it fun. It also gives me outfit inspiration. So even if I don't necessarily buy a pattern, it gives me a glimpse as to how women wore certain things or how things were expected to be worn. As I'm looking through patterns for style, sometimes I come across patterns that I just can't help but to buy. So I frequent places like eBay, Etsy, antique shops, Pinterest, pretty much any online retailer, and then thrift stores as well. I don't have as much luck with thrift stores, but definitely antique shops. I do use a vintage all metal sewing machine. In fact, all of my machines are vintage all metal machines. They stand the test of time. To me, it's like a prerequisite. Like if other people, when they're buying a vintage machine, they look up reviews and things like that. If I can get a machine that is from the 70s, 60s, 50s, 40s, and it's all metal machine, to me, that is their review. Like if you're still running and you're all metal, then that shows me that you're definitely worthy of being my machine, especially since I do also collect. So I use a Kenmore sewing machine. It's a simple zigzag machine. It comes with a book of attachments for the sewing, for the stitches. So the stitches are not computerized. They each come on little cartridges. I'll post a picture, and you just pop in one of the cartridges and then you get your decorative stitch. So that is the video. I enjoyed sharing a little bit about myself with you guys. If you have any more questions, please leave it in the comment section below. I thank you guys so much again for your support. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you in my next video. Oh, and don't forget to follow me on Instagram, where I am more active throughout the week, and especially in my stories, and you'll be able to follow my sewing in real time. And that is @Sewrina_. Thank you, bye.